Hiya, I'm Jasper, and welcome to your video review for Mad Max Fury Road. It's a movie that stars Tom Hardy, Charlize Theron, and Nicholas Hoult. So, I highly recommend that if you haven't already seen this movie, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, you should watch Furiosa, a Mad Max tale, or a Mad Max saga, before watching this movie. Because that is it's like when you watch Rogue One leading into A New Hope. Like, it leads directly into it, and it changes some of the things. So if you hadn't watched Star Wars A New Hope, then yeah, watch Rogue One first, and that leads into this and gives an interesting perspective. So yeah, definitely watch that movie first. That movie is not as good as this movie, but it's still an excellent movie. Okay, so getting back to this movie. This movie is one of the top 10 movies ever made, and I think that it will remain so. There is CGI in this movie, but aside from a couple things that you're like, well, I know they can't build a mountain like 50 stories high. Like, aside from that, you can't tell that they're CGI. And even with like the looking part of it, it looks real. You just know that there's not that exact rock formation, in existence with a whole bunch of shit on there that they had. So aside from the things that you know have to be CGI, it doesn't look like CGI. If you watch the special features like I have, you know that there was various color corrections that they did to make the various sand and other environments like match the color tone that they were going for. And then, they've enhanced some of the things, moved things a little bit closer, but you really can't tell. Like, even when you're looking for it. And that's one of the things that is so great about this movie, is that so much of it was done practical. They built these rigs. They built pretty much all of the vehicles. I think every single one of those vehicles had like a practical and was used in reality during this shoot. And there are actually dudes on the poles doing the things that you see in a couple of the chase sequences. So it really adds to the realism of what you see going on here. And they do have a couple of like day to night turn things, but they do it in the correct way that works. Not like the other day to night swaps in some other movies that just, it doesn't feel right. This one, it works for this. And this movie is just a high octane, just from the moment the movie starts all the way through the end. It's just a high octane chase. It chases and then chases and uses different things for chasing. And it's just, imagine the best car chase you've ever seen, and then times it by 10 and have it be 2 hours long and not feel boring, or like it gives you enough pauses in between so that you're not just like on an adrenaline high the whole time. You have time to like, okay, relax for a second, and then boom, you're back in. So like, it doesn't ever get boring, but it doesn't just become monotonous of just a car chase scene. So like, they always, like, they do a good job of framing what you need to be looking at. And Tom Hardy is one of those actors that can speak so much without saying words. Think Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Terminator, or Charlize Theron in this movie as well. Does a really good job with that. Nicholas Hoult, always a beautiful, just a beautiful man. I love seeing him in things, and he's got that innocence to him. I don't know, it so works for this movie. Every single thing and how they establish the world really works, because they give you just enough that you can kind of fill in the blanks yourself. Furiosa fills in more blanks. But if you haven't seen that movie, or you just refuse to for whatever reason, which you should see it, because it's not a girl boss like Mary Sue type movie. Like, if you liked Charlize Theron's character in this movie, you will like the Furiosa character in that movie. Okay, I'm just saying, like, they're both badasses. It's not like, did you like Ripley and Alien, or Aliens, or Alien 3, or Alien Resurrection? You'll like that movie. Just saying. Okay, back to this one. So everything about this movie is fantastic. The camera angles, the music, the pacing, how they like, just where they position the camera for things, and the movement they're in. It just gives it such energy and such a unique feel to it. And even the sound is just superb, because each of the vehicles has its own feel to it. And the music in this very much works when you hear it. Like, it is solid. And yeah, they do a good job of having reasoning behind everything and really getting you attached to the characters despite the minimal amount of dialogue. So I cannot say enough good things about this movie. I really have no criticisms of this movie at all, really. Yeah, so some people might be annoyed that that Mel Gibson isn't in it and he's not playing Max. I don't really give a shit. I don't have a whole bunch of nostalgia for the original Mad Maxes. I've watched them all at least once, but not early enough in my existence to be like, oh yeah, that was fantastic. I'm just kind of like, all right, those existed. I don't think those hold up as well if you haven't watched them in your nostalgia period, you know. Whereas this one I think is going to hold up for ages because the CGI is not overly played and overly visible and just like in your face. They use practical effects which survive much longer, and they have the correct camera angles so that you're not like, well, that person had to be CGI because how did they go through the wheels like that? Like, no, they don't have those scenes. Like the action that you see on here, it legitimately looks like would be performed by a stunt performer, so that just adds to the realism when you're watching the movie and you're just absorbed in it. We're like, yeah, that could be a person. I am watching an actual person doing the thing. It's great. So, you know, I read somewhere in a trivia, either during Furiosa, this movie, or one of the other Mad Maxes, that like Mel Gibson signed off on. He's like, the trivia said that Mel Gibson himself said that he was too old to play Max with the stunts that were going to be required for this movie. So, people that are annoyed that Mel Gibson wasn't the one playing him, like, eh. Also, if you haven't seen the first 3 Mad Maxes, you don't need to. Those are totally unrelated. Like, they are kind of their own separate storyline each time. You don't need to see those in order to appreciate this one. And you can, because this was made however many years ago, just watch this one and be totally satisfied. I think it's more fun if you watch Furiosa, now that it's been made, before you watch this one, but you don't have to watch Furiosa before in order to appreciate this one. And just like you don't need to watch any of the other 3 Mad Maxes before watching Furiosa or before watching this one. Those 3 they're very much like just, you know, I don't know, MCU type of, back when it was good, or maybe it was just disconnected. I don't know. Alternate universe. You don't need to watch them. Just leave it at that. You don't need to watch them, but you should watch this one because it's one of the top 10 movies ever made, and yeah, it's just utterly fantastic with everything that happens. So yeah, that's all. Actually, one spoiler thing that I will say is, I guess the one gripe that I have is how much water they and Max were wasting when you get to that scene. You're just gonna be like, just turn off the water, turn off the water, turn it off. But is that really a complaint? If you watch it, if you know what part I'm talking about. All right, that's all I have for this one. Go watch it. Thanks for watching. Bye.